Spider-Man on Kirblog. It's more classic than playing Pogs. Remember that? Probably not. On short notice, it's the best I got. Look out. It's a Kirblog on Spider-Man.
You've done the Ramones proud.
Welcome, everybody. We're in...
That was almost as good as Michael Bublé.
Almost, but not quite.
Not quite.
We're in week 2 of Mayerville. We finished up my Captain America week, first off, hot off the heels of Civil War. I'm joined by, not a first-time guest, but this is his first one with just him and I curled up together with no clothes on in his beautiful studio apartment.
We're spooning.
This isn't a studio apartment. It's just
this is not a studio apartment.
It's got a studio.
It's an apartment
and an apartment
with a studio in it.
And we're not in your whisper room.
No,
we're outside of it.
We're
so
not
we're not
in the studio because
sweating.
we don't want to die of heat stroke.
No, well you don't. But also I'm wearing the hoodie. But you know,
I'm wearing a cardigan.
I'm pretending that you're just because I'm still wearing my to paint a picture. I'm wearing my Captain America hoodie, and my guest is wearing what I'm going to call the Venom era Peter Parker outfit because that's totally relevant to this.
We are Mr. Rogers.
Ew.
Because he wore a cardigan.
I don't want to see Venom Rogers.
Are you
would
kidding
make me sad.
That would be amazing.
Gross. Ew.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I'm joined by Venom, everybody.
Yes, we are here to talk about Spider-Man.
Venom, for those of you who don't know, was totally in the Smash Brothers Kirblog and the Sonic Adventure 1 vs. 2 Kirblog, and this is the first time I'm doing one with... No, it's Xander Mobus.
I moonlight as a voice actor when I'm not trying to kill Spider-Man.
Xander Mobus is actually Venom's real
I am wearing all black.
secret identity. Yeah.
So either I'm going full emo or I'm Venom.
Well, see,
so
okay, let
me
me establish this up front because I'm gonna blow the lid off here. I'm gonna be doing another Spider-Man related Kirblog. This one is gonna be just general thoughts about Spider-Man, but I'm gonna be doing one with someone else more closely related to Venom. But I have to draw you as a Spider-Man villain. So who do you want to be when I draw it?
Green Goblin.
Okay, well, then
Oh man,
that was easy.
I would have said Kingpin, but
Well,
I'm too vain.
I know. Well, see, and if I were smart, I would have also made time to be watching Daredevil already. But I mean, you know,
so good.
I know.
If you ever want to talk Daredevil, I'm so down.
Oh, for sure.
Like
yeah.
anything Marvel, I'm so there.
Well,
or DC.
I wanted to bring Xandar on because I wanted this to be as the first installment of Spider-Man week of the month of Mayerville. To just be like a general one about the franchise. But Xander is one of the few friends I have who is also like a very big general comic book fan.
I do love my comic books.
And has plenty to say on this. But I also wanted to say real quick, just to kind of incorporate this, was sparked by a question that was, I don't even know how long ago this was submitted to me, by 369 Cyber, which is a very naughty choice of screen name, sir and or madam. They prefaced their comment with a whole long thing about their opinions on how bad they think Amazing Spider-Man 2 is. But at the end of it, speaking of Spidey, can you possibly do a Kirblog on your experiences with the web slinger and your thoughts on the whole Sony/Marvel deal, which we will also talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're recording this on
hot off the heels of Civil
War,
War, baby.
It's on Saturday, and it's just after we've both seen it.
We went to war and we won.
Did we? I feel really sad. Do we want to talk about spoilers? I guess why
don't we like do that at the end and then do like a big like spoilers, skip this part.
Because we do want to talk about Tom Holland Spider-Man, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
All right. So then for now, there will be no Civil War spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. But Xandar.
Yes.
Us.
Yes.
Well, I want you to start because you're. Is it? That's how Crispin Freeman would pronounce it, but not me or anybody else. I'm assuming that your introduction to Spidey far predates mine, even though you were younger than I am.
Maybe. I mean, it predates it maybe in terms of age. My first big introduction to Spider-Man was the animated series on in the 90s.
Okay.
And then from there, I was just hooked. Spidey. I love Spidey. I mean, I know I get people's like, oh, he's the worst superhero because of this, and this. And I understand those points, but, you know, I grew up a nerd. And growing up a nerd, I feel like it's really hard to not sympathize with Spider-Man. So I loved him. Then I started reading the comics, and I made the mistake. This was back early in my comic reading, so I thought you had to read all of it, you know? Like with Batman, I was like, well, I gotta start at the beginning. 1939, baby, we're going way back. back.
God almighty. I can't imagine.
Yeah, so with Spidey, I assumed I had to start with issue 1 of The Amazing Spider-Man and work my way up in sequence, which I don't recommend to anyone.
No.
It's a huge time commitment.
No.
It's rough sometimes, but
how many years worth of issues is that for what was did they have one every month?
Yeah, one every month, and then he also gets multiple
Spin-offs
series
and stuff.
after like I think the 80s is when like the late 80s is when like Spectacular Spider-Man and the Web of Spider-Man, that was a thing.
Clearly enough about the 90s cartoon got you that deep into this character that you wanted to see all that stuff.
And also when I was young, Ultimate Spider-Man started coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Ultimate Universe, it's not around anymore. Which I'm fine. It got pretty shit pretty quick, but the idea was in 2000, the year 2000.
In the year 2000. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's when it started.
Okay.
So I was still quite young at the time. They started a new Marvel universe, which was supposed to be more accessible to new readers, which I was. And it was sort of, what if these stories happened today? And then it sort of spun off and became its own huge colossal thing. But it kind of ran into problems in that by the point we hit 2010, it now had 10 years of continuity behind it, so all of a sudden it wasn't really accessible to new readers. So they eventually just kind of killed it off. But yeah, that got me really I started there because I was like, well, it's that or the 616 Spider-Man. There's a lot of issues. So I blazed through what was available there, and then that got me so hooked that I was like, okay, I'm out of this stuff. I'm going to 616. And then that's kind of the version I really, really fell in love with, was the 616 Spidey.
And who were like the creative people behind that particular sect?
Ultimate Spider-Man? That was Brian Michael Bendis, and I am forgetting the name of the artist, which I feel really bad about because he did like the whole run with Brian Michael Bendis. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking 100+ issues.
And Ultimate is also where like a lot of like the I think what a lot more people now know like iterations of certain characters like Eddie Brock Jr. I think came from that, right? And then...
No, he's still Eddie Brock.
Okay.
But yeah, that version is what you tend to see more of in like in Spectacular Spider-Man the cartoon. That was definitely the ultimate version of Eddie Brock.
Right. And even a lot of the villains, I feel like certain versions of them have become more like that than like the old school, like, you know, bright color uniform type
and
shit.
Like Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, that came from the Ultimate Universe and stuff like that.
Yeah, my very limited knowledge on the Marvel like actual comic stuff is I know enough about that.
And I mean, I'm okay with. I know a lot of people are like, why are they using the Ultimate version? What's wrong with the original comics? I think the Ultimate version is much more suited for adaptation because it was sort of, all right, we're taking modern storytelling sensibilities and building these characters again with the same spirit, just with more of the modern kind of ideas. So not everybody's white.
Which is nice.
Which, if people have problems with that, which clearly the internet does,
then you're literally worse than Hitler.
Fucking deal with it. It's 2016. It's not the 1960s anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see. Okay, I actually can't remember how my introduction, if anything, to Spider-Man was. I think he was just one of those characters that just always existed.
He's an icon.
He's just so part of our like, American culture. I mean, like with Batman, Superman, you know, a lot of the you know, at the time, I think the more iconic DC characters, and now with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a lot of the Avengers, I think, have become like much more well known and like appreciated properly.
Well, and like Spider-Man, he's always been the guy for Marvel almost since his introduction. He's been consistently at least one of, if not the most popular character. And obviously Wolverine came along, and then Deadpool, and they made big deals out of them. But for the longest time, like if Spidey was in the fucking Transformers Marvel comic, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because they wanted to sell books. So it's like, well, Spidey's popular, put Spidey in it. So he was like their guy. So if you have any like knowledge of pop culture, it's impossible to avoid Spider-Man.
I just even remember like there was a show on Nickelodeon called My Brother and Me, which if anybody remembers that, there was, and even as a kid of like no knowledge of like how like copyright shit works or whatever, I remember distinctly there was a scene where like they're at a comic shop and they're talking about like, oh, I just got the new issue of Spider-Man, and I'm just like, can they just like reference real comics like so easily like that or whatever? It's like, oh, okay, maybe it was different back then. Although something that did, okay, I and if you're following me on Twitter, you might have seen me be like, from the depths of my memories, tweet this. There was a very early thing I do remember seeing. It was an episode of the Muppet Babies, of all things.
Oh, the Muppet Babies.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
I
possibly?
don't. I barely remember the Muppet Babies.
There's an episode, I think it was an episode where they were talking about reading books and comics and stuff in general, and I never forgot. I probably only ever saw this one time in my life as a kid, and it just stuck with me forever. Is like Baby Rolf and Baby, not Skeeter, but Skeeter's sister.
Oh, right.
I can't remember her name, but her. They were talking about Spider-Man. It was like, and she was like, "Oh, there could be a Spider Girl under there. We don't know." I can't. It was my fucking bad Howie Mandel, everybody. And then Baby Rolf is like, "Well, it could even maybe be a Spider Dog." And then it shows them like, you know, like when animated characters go like into a comic book and they have like the panels like on the screen or whatever, so it's like them dressed up as Spider Rolf and Spider Skeeter's sister, I can't remember her name, and then what I believe was the old school Dan Gilvezan, like, oh, talented I guess version of Spider-Man being like, hey guys, what do you think you're doing, this is my comic or whatever. And that's my earliest actual memory of anything to do with Spider-Man, like in some kind of consumable media.
See, like the 60s, if you want to go back to the 60s Spider-Man cartoon,
yeah,
that was weird. Like, I feel like even in the maybe I'm crazy because I wasn't alive in the 60s, but like I feel like even at the time that had to be weird. Like, you're a kid reading Spider-Man and he's this dork and dweeb, and then you know, like, and then he comes in the cartoon and he sounds, you know, sort of like this, and you're like, okay, that's not really how I pictured it, but okay.
And then he turns into, well, you don't see that every day in New York.
Like, what? When did he turn into fucking Superman from the 1940s?
Well, it's funny because even on the note of the 90s cartoon, I remember, so the movies came out. I saw the first one as it like came, what was like 2001, I think it was the first Spider-Man movie, the Sam Raimi one.
Yeah, it was something.
I know there was also one before that, but I've never seen that.
It was something like that.
Yeah, but early 2000s, I saw that and I was like, okay, Spider-Man's cool. And now I'm like, I know who the fuck Green Goblin even is, and anything about anything.
He's Willem Dafoe as a Power Rangers villain.
Yes, 100%. Well, may that get Spider-Man. Oh, sorry, I'm doing more Michael Dobson Starscream.
But like, even in that, I love how he did. I actually love him, Willem Dafoe, as that. Like, he has that monologue where he's talking about, so anyway, like, we're gonna take over the city, and it's gonna be great. And he's very casual and just talking like a chain-smoking housewife.
God.
I loved that. I love it. I ate it up. Sam Raimi may be heavy on the camp, but I thought it really worked for that.
But I did see that, and then I remember after the first movie came out, airing somewhere, I couldn't tell you, was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Oh, shit. I thought you were going to the CGI cartoon.
No, I actually never saw that. That's the Neil Patrick Harris one, right? Yeah, no, is that Unlimited or?
No, that was Unlimited was the Canadian one in the 90s.
Right.
No, that was what was it? The New Animated Adventures of Spider-Man or something.
Right. And that was with the Kingpin, the Michael Clark Duncan, God rest his soul, version of Kingpin
I love
animated.
That version of Kingpin.
Oh yeah.
That was so good.
Even though that Daredevil movie was...
but like...
But he was a highlight.
He was definitely... Like, there are good parts of even... Like, I mean, the Green Lantern movie sucked ass. But that being said, Jeffrey Rush as Tomar Ray was great.
Yeah, there's always little nuggets of...
Yeah,
somewhere. Just like how... what's this? Jason Marsden... James Marsden as Piccolo was... The only good thing about Marsters, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, Buffy fans.
He was like trying to clearly give this like gravitas performance and all that
to Piccolo,
and then like all of his lines clearly got cut in post, so he says like 4 words, and he's just looking scary the rest of the time. You're like, he was clearly giving everything.
He gave a shit
on every take.
Yeah.
And they basically cut him out of this movie.
You know that the screenwriter for DragonAll Evolution like apologized publicly recently.
I saw that. Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Good on you, buddy. I appreciate that. Anyway, but But yeah, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friend. No, I did not see the CGI series, unfortunately. I did not. I don't think I saw Unlimited either. I don't even know where they were fucking airing at the time. But Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was just like airing somewhere on some channel, and I would always happen to see it. And it was with fucking Firestar and Iceman, played by Frank Welker. In my early ages of like being able to recognize voice actors and everything I watched.
Which is so weird. Like, why didn't they have Johnny Storm?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, they're really good friends in the comics. It would have just made sense. But then Iceman.
Yeah, well, probably because they wanted like, let's get like a good roundabout of different powers, like a fire guy and an ice guy and Spider-Man.
I just want to like ask, does anyone really like Iceman?
I kind of like him.
I've yet to meet anyone who's like, oh yeah, Iceman, he's my favorite.
I'm biased because I like ice-powered characters in general, but you know.
I don't know. Like, I've met a lot of people who are like, yeah, man, Gambit, I love Gambit. Oh, Nightcrawler's my favorite. Colossus, I love him. He's big, he's lovable, he's doofy. I've never met anyone who's like, oh yeah, Iceman.
Bobby Drake, dude.
Bobby Drake, yeah.
Well,
or Angel. I
am one of those guys. I do like Iceman.
I've never met anyone who's like, Angel's my favorite X-Men. And there's at least like the whole apocalypse
thing.
Well,
comment if Angel is your favorite X-Men on this Spider-Man.
I'm genuinely curious to know. Nightcrawler for life.
That's true.
Beast,
Nightcrawler's great.
Beast, close second favorite.
The X-Men also did the X-Men cross over with the Spider-Man cartoon at some point? I feel like there was one of the Marvel cartoons.
I mean, yeah, they did. There was an episode of the or it might have been 2 episodes of the Spider-Man animated series where the X-Men showed up.
Of the 90s one.
Yeah, I don't know if Spider-Man was ever in the X-Men cartoon.
No, yeah, I don't think it was the opposite, but I do remember because they got everybody from the 90s show to return and voice themselves too. I didn't see really. I don't think. No, you know what? No, I lie. I did see like little bits and pieces of the 90s cartoon, like just like scattered along with the X-Men 90s cartoon, but like not enough that I followed either of them. But so a lot of my information did come from the Raimi trilogy, but even I was smart enough to know that 3 was, very silly. But also, I do remember, in fact, Mike Lucas, who I was over his house, he's downstairs waiting patiently while we record this right now. I was over his house and we rented what I believe was, they marketed it as like a movie, but it was just, I could tell it was just a bunch of episodes.
Was that the Green Goblin one?
No, it was the Venom one. It was the black suit, followed by Venom happening.
I'm so pissed off about that. Like when I was young enough and video stores were still a thing, I went to the video store and I'd seen all of the Spider-Man animated movie or animated show, and they had the Green Goblin Returns movie. And I was like, wait, they made a movie?
And it was just episodes.
Yeah. You bastards, you screwed me.
Yeah, Turtles would do that all the time. Like a lot of shows, because they wouldn't have like full releases of these series. They just like put a bunch of episodes together, and sometimes they'd be like, oh, we'll call it a movie, and they'll think it's different or whatever.
And the worst part is a lot of the time, like, or at least some of them, I don't know that a lot, but they wouldn't actually have been like in sequence with each other. So like there'd be like, one episode with the Green Goblin and then another Green Goblin episode way down the line, and they just smash them together and be like, they're a movie now. And it's like,
it's weird.
What?
Well, because at least with the Venom one I saw, it was like those like 4 or 5 episodes or whatever of like, he gets the black suit, he gets rid of it, and then it becomes Eddie Brock, and then he becomes Venom, and they fight, etc. So it was like a beginning, middle, and end. It was what 3 was taking all of its Venom material from, more or less.
See, because of that, I actually thought Gargoyles was a movie for the longest time.
Oh, because of the premiere?
Yeah, and it came with, like, we had this, like, we had the VHS, and then it came with, like, a board game, like a Gargoyles board game.
I remember that.
And then there was a second tape, which
you played with the board game.
Yeah,
I remember
and it was just
that.
recut footage from those first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You're the only person I've met who remembers the fucking Gargoyles video board game. Wow.
That's all I had as a kid, because we didn't have the Disney Channel.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, Disney. Did they? Okay, where did you see? This is related. Where did you see a lot of, like, what channels, like, a lot of the Marvel cartoons in the first place?
I had to go over to friend. My parents are crazy and hippies, so they don't believe in television.
Oh.
So we had ATV to watch movies, and like later they hated video games for the longest time, but we convinced them, no, it's fine, we're not gonna worship Satan because we're playing video games.
Ironic, and now you make a living voicing in those.
I know, and they're still confused. They're like, what happened? We thought you were gonna be a doctor. But I had to go over to friends' houses to watch cartoons, which is how, like, I I think that's why I really love Scooby-Doo, is because I'd go over to my friends' houses after like school when the Cartoon Network was doing like the Hanna-Barbera thing. And they always do like Scooby-Doo runs.
Yeah.
So it's Stockholm.
Well, that was Cartoon Network for a while. It was
Yeah.
all Hanna-Barbera shit and Looney Tunes.
Yeah, so I think I got like Stockholm syndrome, and now I'm just like, I've convinced myself, no, I just love Scooby-Doo.
Well, especially when you live with Edward Bosco and he,
Right. Oh, it's a crotchless Scrappy-Doo costume.
He used to work at Universal.
Now he just does it for fun.
No. Well, now I don't. Does he do it at all anymore?
He still likes mascot work.
Oh, okay.
I know he has an appreciation for the craft.
He has an adoration for Scooby-Doo like nobody's fucking business. It's quite amazing.
Getting back on topic, so
Yes.
Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends.
Yes.
I do want to share. So
Okay.
there's one episode of that I will always remember with the chameleon. And I remember because I was a huge fan of The Hobbit as a kid, the Rankin Bass movie.
Yeah.
And that's how that and Peter Pan was how I was introduced to Hans Conried, who's like I love him. And so the chameleon shows up, voiced by Hans Conried.
Wait, what?
And I will always remember his opening monologue is like, 7 little superheroes will vanish one by one.
It's literally just Captain Hook as a fucking supervillain.
And as a kid, I was like, that's Thorin Oakenshield. That's Captain Hook. What's happening? And why is he being so evil? Not just like evil, but evil.
That's funny because I didn't even know until recently that Chameleon is like the first like villain of the Spider-Man comics. I think before Green Goblin, right?
I mean, the Tinkerer happened first.
Oh, was he before that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because I thought it was like Chameleon was like way before Goblin or any of the more iconic ones.
I actually remember, like, this is weird. Like, I remember, weirdly enough, like the Mole Man was the first Fantastic Four, but I don't remember who the first. I think the Tinkerer was the first.
I feel like I read
Spider-Man villain,
Chameleon was. But you would probably know better than I would. This Tinkerer I also only just recently learned about.
Yeah, and he was like an alien. That was back when like aliens just happened.
Yeah,
in the
just
Marvel
like it was just a
universe.
thing, and it was
Yeah.
like, okay, we just accept this.
All
Whatever.
right, well, all right. Thank God we beat them back.
But yeah, so seeing that like little movie, that was like my exposure to the '90s cartoon at all. And then I remember because now I can say, so at the moment I am over halfway through watching Spectacular Spider-Man, which I am loving the absolute shit out of.
Good.
And I know I'm gonna be real sad when it's over because I know it ends on a cliffhanger. Everybody's been letting me know.
This might like betray my spider, but that is honestly my favorite iteration of those characters ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is my favorite Spider-Man thing ever made.
Well, I'm gonna do a separate Kirblog about that, but I will say real quick because I was joking with Ben Diskin earlier today, who was the voice of Eddie Brock and Venom in that show.
He's terrible.
Yeah, he's pretty shitty. Honestly, they should have gotten you. To
Hank
do it.
Azaria was just the right choice. Hear that? You fucked up. Hank was right there.
I watched the episode. Intervention is what it's called, and it's like about at the halfway point, and it's like, wow, it's all of what I'm assuming is like the classic, part when like he has the black suit and he is in the church and he hits the bell and then he loses it, etc. So it's all of that classic, material of like how Venom came to be, and it's also how that series did the flashback to how Uncle Ben dies, now he gets bit by the spider, and all the origin story stuff. And it's like, wow, this is the entire Raimi trilogy's like major like origin story and like major events about Venom and Spidey and etc. in 22 minutes. Better.
Oh my god. When Uncle Ben shows up at the end of that episode,
Yeah.
when he's like
it's
fighting
Ed
the
Asner.
symbiote, I
Yeah.
felt all the feels, and it gets worse. There's a great episode, my favorite episode of that. I think it's not the last episode. I think it's the penultimate episode.
Okay, I just got up to Kraven the Hunter, so I'm still making my way
I won't
through
ruin it for you, but like that backstory that they showed gets a little bit more complicated, and you're just like, God damn it,
Oh boy, I'm gonna just fuck me up.
making me feel the feels.
Fuck me up, Spider-Man. So that's our origin story, our origin story that does not involve people being
We
shot.
got
thank
bitten
God.
by radioactive geeks.
Yeah, and now we are geekermen.
Yeah.
Just like all good Jewish superheroes. Spider-Man, Superman, Aquaman,
Batman.
Batman. It's Rob Paulson's joke.
What are you talking about? I came up with that years ago. Wink, wink.
Oh, and I'm remembering my fucking order of doing this. I'm sure there's a billion, but any particular favorite characters, moments? I mean, obviously we've talked about favorite like shows and movies and things. I know we can agree on Spectacular for sure. I'm assuming you do have a soft spot for the 90s series as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of hard going back and rewatching it now.
Why does Peter look like He-Man?
Yeah, like my sensibilities have changed since I was 10, so because also like I don't know if you have this, but you know, like once you realize how a cartoon is made, and then you watch a cartoon and you're realizing I'm not enjoying this. I'm just looking at all the technicals and that kind of
with
shit.
certain shows, I get that way, especially in my line of work. But
Like I really like Gravity Falls, but the entire time I was like
dissecting, like
and I was like,
yeah.
it's so hard to. So like I kind of do that with older cartoons a lot.
Yeah.
Which sucks. I wish I didn't do that.
I can still turn it off. I mean, like for Spectacular, I can turn it off.
Oh,
and I'm just sucked into the story
because
completely.
it's so engrossing and it's so fucking pretty.
Yeah, Cheeks is an amazing character designer, and like that whole team.
It animates so well,
Yeah.
and they clearly spent some money making it look good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I remember the '90s cartoon had like pretty decent animation too.
for its time, for the time.
Yeah, I mean, the style was very like whoa. Like, it was also very of the time too.
It was
and,
a lot better than the fucking X-Men animated series.
Yeah,
where they like barely move, and when they do, it looks so awkward because they're all muscle.
I'm gonna flashing ahead a bit. I'm gonna disappoint a lot of people when I inevitably get to like the X-Men cartoon memories. Kirblog, because I didn't really watch the 90s one because I didn't really like it that much.
I still love it. But it does have its flaws for sure.
But I've always gathered that the 90s Spider-Man cartoon was like a little better like overall in terms of like the quality and like some of the stories.
It really depends on who you ask. Some people really love the X-Men animated series way more, and I think it just comes down to personal preference.
That's fair.
But yeah, favorite moment. This is kind of hard because like my favorites really change based upon kind of the iteration. Like I think Spectacular Spider-Man has the best Sandman has ever been.
Yeah, okay.
Like I almost never really give a shit about the Sandman. Because he's a big bulking guy who shows up, is kind of dumb, and is just like, I'm gonna stop you, Spider-Man. Oh no. But then they did, and this is the great thing about comics in general, I think, is that these characters, even when they seem very uninteresting at first, it just takes the right creative to see the potential in that.
Oh, sure,
and make
yeah.
a great story out of it. And with Spectacular, they made a great Sandman story. And all of a sudden, I was like, shit, I give a shit about Flint Marko. What's wrong with me?
I will say actually, and I don't know if you or much of anybody else will agree with, Sandman to me was like the one genuinely good part about Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi movie.
I honestly don't like the Raimi movies that much.
No, I don't either. But
I feel like they're like the Singer X-Men movies in that they were great for the time. But going back and rewatching them now, it's just like we live in a post-Iron Man world. I need you to step up your game.
Yeah. But I'm saying like for how like full of shit 3 was, like, okay, I felt for Flint in that, and like Thomas Hayden Church I thought was a pretty good fit on him.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't, just because it felt so retroactive to me, like the whole he was the guy who killed Uncle Ben thing.
That I wasn't in love with.
Rubbed me the wrong way.
But the sequence of him like becoming the Sandman was amazing.
That was very well done for the time. I think there are nuggets of good stuff in Spider-Man 3, just like there are nuggets of good things in all of them. I just, as a whole, I just don't think it's less than the sum of its parts.
I do like DiMaggio's like kind of, because he is still the goofball in Spectacular.
My money!
Yeah. I forgot it because I'm an idiot. It's like, oh, you silly. Yeah, he's. I've grown to like Sandman more than I even would have expected.
Yeah, and you haven't gotten to the episode yet.
Not the one you're talking about. Oh, I will probably by tonight when I get home.
So
No,
good. It's so good. Season 2 of that show, like everything that was great about season 1, season 2 is just like, so we're gonna go even further. We're gonna just make this great, and then we're canceled because no one's watching. Because
well, as I'm reminded on that end with the movies too, I think my favorite villain overall is definitely Doc Ock. Because of all the different iterations that I've seen of him in like the movies and the different cartoons and things, all of the different iterations of him have all been really intriguing. Like Alfred Molina, like might even be like the best thing about the Raimi trilogy overall.
Oh, easily. Alfred Molina just
so good on that part. And then like the fucking Peter McNichol version of him.
I love that.
That
That is actually also my favorite version of Doc Ock.
Oh yeah.
Which it's just he's he's a character who I understand why a lot of people are like, oh, he's one of the deepest characters in comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, in a world where Magneto exists, it's hard for me to care about the crazy German scientist being like, I will take over the world because I am superior to it. But like, and he's not German generally, but like for some reason all the cartoons made him German.
Oh, and the old ones?
Yeah, oh,
really?
Even in the 90s show, he was
He was very sort of Spider-Man. I will destroy you.
I didn't even...
And it's like, okay, no, that's fine. That's
And
cool.
yet, I think also, despite that, I think also Doc Ock was the first Spider-Man villain I ever, like, knew about. Because I didn't know who Green Goblin was until the first Raimi movie, weirdly.
What I always really liked about Doc Ock was that he is this kind of weaker, flabbier, like, he's not a guy, like, he's assigned, but he's been turned into kind of a brawler.
Yeah.
And he still has all the dangerousness of the mad scientist, but he's also a physical threat to Spidey, which I think is actually... It's interesting because I think it plays into the theme of Spider-Man with like this geek who's been given the power to be like physically what he wants to be, but at the end of the day, it's his brains that make the hero, and it's brains that make the villain with Doc Ock, which is why I love the spectacular version, because they fully embrace how much of a weenie he was beforehand. And then he becomes so dangerous and so scary, and you're like, yeah, that's like...
Well, and also, I only learned about what Superior Spider-Man was very recently. Trailer Drake of the Game Theorist, he recorded like a little like motion comic-y like thing that he wanted to do. I love Drake. Hi Drake, if you're listening.
Hi.
I should be fucking getting him on one of these at some point. But yeah, he showed me Superior Spider-Man because I had no idea what that even was. I remember like seeing it as like skins in like some of the video games or whatever, but I didn't realize it's Doc Ock in Peter's body.
Oh man,
what in God's name?
I wanted to hate that so bad. This is the thing about Dan Slott. Dan Slott is like, I kind of hate that I love him because I wanted to hate his stuff so badly.
Why?
Because when you tell me, all right, we're killing off Spider-Man, and of course they always play it up like this is the end. This is Spider-Man's gone, and of course you're like,
give it time,
guys.
It's a comic book.
I'm not new to this rodeo. Of course he's gonna be back. So it's always very melodramatic, and then it's like, okay, so our story is Dr. Octopus is now a Spider-Man, and he's gonna be the best Spider-Man, and forget about that old Spider-Man because he's dumb. Doc Ock's the real Spider-Man. I was like, this is gonna be the stupidest fucking thing. This is someone's fan fiction.
And then it was awesome. I saw one issue of it where like it involves him having the little like internal monologue between him and Peter's minds, and I was like, this is really intriguing. I never would have thought of something like this.
And he goes all the way with it, and he's continued it on. Like the current run of Spider-Man, Dan Slott's run of Spider is one of the best we've had in years. Like he gets Peter Parker, he gets the character, but then in addition to that, he just takes it to these extremes. Like he's running a business now. He's got, this Parker Industries, and now he has all this responsibility as Peter Parker, and it's a completely new shift and a new dynamic, and he introduces these great characters. My one problem is he turned Black Cat into the Kingpin, which makes no sense to me. I don't care how much they try and justify it. Black Cat has never been pure evil. And now she's just like this mustache twirling,
like crime boss or something.
Like this Machiavellian, evil, sadistic son of a bitch, and you're just like, what happened?
That's unusual. Yeah. I mean, Black Cat. I've seen her for years, but I'm only just now beginning to learn a little bit more about her, and she's pretty interesting so far. On that note, actually, I do want to ask you. So the ladies of Spider-Man. Now, the thing about the girl characters is I get a lot of negative reaction when, like, Gwen or Mary Jane, are brought up very often. And, like, okay, so, like, in Amazing Spider-Man, and say what you will about it, I liked that version of Gwen Stacy a lot. And now, granted, I don't know if that's like, that could have been also just been Mary Jane instead of Gwen or whatever. I don't know if that was the intention. I don't even know if she's ever been like that before in any of the comics or anything.
I have complicated feelings on Gwen Stacy. So, like, the thing about Gwen Stacy is that she was never very interesting because she was invented at a time when we didn't demand a lot from our characters in comic books.
And probably especially from female characters.
And because
at the time.
because it was directed at mostly male readership,
They were the girlfriends.
yeah. So you got a lot of kind of underdeveloped, just like, oh, save me.
Yeah.
And she wasn't that, being fair. But
Well, was Mary Jane that?
no, Mary Jane's always been one of the more vibrant characters. Like, even when she shows up, Steve Ditko did such a good job on this panel too, is like you see the shock in Peter's face because he's been, and it's one of the funniest things, and they did this in Spectacular Spider-Man 2, where before he meets Mary Jane, Aunt May
great
keeps being-
personality.
yeah, Aunt May keeps being like, she has a great personality, and like when you hear that when someone's trying to talk somebody up, you're immediately like, oh no. And they did that, and then she shows up and she just says, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot."
Yeah, the classic first line.
And it has so much personality to it. Now, whether or not you like Mary Jane's personality, I personally, I think she's got a lot of stuff going on. I think the writers have been very good for the most part. There are obviously weak stories, but
Yeah,
I think
I don't
want to.
wanna-
The character is very solid.
I certainly don't want to hate. I mean, okay, like even in the Raimi trilogy too, like I like Kirsten Dunst and like her performance was fine. It was more so just they didn't really like write anything interesting for the character in those.
That was one of those situations where, much like Gwen Stacy in a lot of things, she was just kind of there.
Yeah.
And like all the
Gwen in the third one was just like, I'm here too, I guess. It's
the
like, oh, okay.
vibrantness of the personality was gone.
Yeah.
And she just became there to be in service of Tobey Maguire wanting to rub one out.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is not my favorite.
But Gwen in the Amazing movies, like Emma Stone, right?
Yeah, was
like she made her
lovely.
really cool.
Was very lovely.
And then also, like, I know again, even like we keep talking about this is practically just the Spectacular Spider-Man Kirblog, but
I actually didn't like her very much in Spectacular.
well, the reason I'm asking is, like, has she ever been the nerd like Peter, or is that exclusive to that show?
No, that was kind of, I think, what they were banking on being interesting about her in the comics was she was kind of the hot girl that ended up going for Peter over, like the
Flash
jocks
and yeah.
Which Flash Thompson, great character, always underutilized, because the thing everyone forgets about him is, he was the bully in high school, but then he got better.
Yeah.
And really cool. And he's great. And Spectacular started towards that. And they made Flash really cool in season 2. And I'm so bummed they didn't get to conclude that storyline.
And he's Agent Venom in like some other like universes or
no,
whatever, right?
in the 616 universe, he's Agent
Oh,
Venom.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is all right. But I was really fond of Scarlet Spider before they canceled it. Not Ben Reilly, Kane, who is one of Spider-Man's clones from the Clone Saga, and he was like, he was evil back in the day,
right?
And now he's a good guy, and he was great. Except they kept doing this thing where like he learned his like, no, I'm gonna stop killing people. I'm gonna be the hero. And then like 2 issues later, he's about to murder somebody again. And you're like, we learned this lesson, Kane. Come on, buddy.
It's if you're named Kane and you live in the Marvel Universe, you're going to be bad at some point, probably multiple times.
But that being said, on the whole, that was a really good series. I'm glad they're not killing him off like they do with everybody else who doesn't succeed.
Yeah. But on the girls again, like like Spectacular is making me like reaffirm. Okay, I'm sure even though there have been probably like very like lame like underdeveloped versions of Mary Jane and Gwen, and I don't know, maybe even Black Gap back in the day when she first showed up, for all I know. But seeing, okay, these are to me all interesting versions of these characters. I'm sure that there are totally cool versions of them in like a lot of the comics.
Right.
Maybe in I don't know what route they're going to go with. We'll be talking about Homecoming a little bit later, but whichever one they choose for that, if any.
I think Gwen Stacy can be cool, and she was good in The Amazing Spider-Man, but she wasn't. There's never been a point where I've been like, oh yeah, I really like Gwen Stacy, and I think it is because in order to make her interesting, and like every single time she shows up in modern media, they completely reinvent her.
Yeah, well, in that case, I get it, because it's like we're gonna introduce Mary Jane. Mary Jane's the more chill and like on top of her shit kind of girl, and if they have like 2 like I'm super hot characters that like in the main cast, it's like that's kind of redundant. So
Mary Jane's thing was she's very free spirited.
Yeah,
and she's very. I don't want to say opinionated because that makes it sound like I'm trying to be like, and she's loud and I'm not. No, she makes up her own mind about things. She makes her own judgments, which is part of why I think she really works with Peter in the kind of high school and college setting. Is she's the one who she doesn't give a shit about Flash's story is all about how he has to learn to see Peter not just as this weird geek who he has to overcome his kind of preconceptions, and that's why it's so funny that the whole joke of Flash is Spider-Man's biggest fan, but he hates Parker.
Yeah,
is entirely the whole point was kind of see past what kind of, and even Peter has to overcome his perception of Flash as just the bully.
Yeah,
and that was a great story. But Mary Jane's the person who comes in, and yeah, she's very attractive, and yeah, she's got a lot of agency and power to her, and she's got a very magnetic personality, so people want to be around her. But she doesn't really, she sees people. She doesn't see kind of the stereotype. And that's why I think her and Peter worked so well, and why they could be friends, even though everyone's like, why are you hanging out with loser Parker? Because he's cool.
Yeah, I also, if I'm remembering right, isn't there also a series that is just about Mary Jane? It's like Mary Jane loves Spider-Man or something
yeah,
like
that was part of their, the hell was that line called? There's been a couple of different lines of Marvel comics where they're specifically trying to target the Max line was all about we're gonna have tits and swear words now. We're edgy, guys.
Well, and also I feel aren't there some universes where she's Spider-Girl and she's partners with Peter or something like that? Is that something?
Spider-Girl is their daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's May Parker.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know. That's cute. I like
cute.
that. Okay.
And she's gone now.
Well,
she's gone.
Great.
Because Mephisto annulled their marriage.
God damn it, Mephisto! You
fucking first Ghost Rider, now this, and you took Wolverine to fuck you, Mephisto.
Fucking.
Why you gotta ruin every? No, actually, there's one demon I hate worse than Mephisto in the Marvel universe. Fucking Azazel.
Oh, is that
Nightcrawler's
Kurt's dad? Yeah.
They kind of fixed him though. They made him a pirate, which is the only way to fix Azazel is to make him a pirate.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
It makes sense. Kurt's a pirate. His dad's a pirate.
Kurt's a pirate?
Kurt's a pirate. Oh man.
He's been a pirate?
Yeah, he was kind of based. He has a huge love of swashbuckling Errol Flynn movies.
I thought he was a circus guy.
He is, but his image inducer used to make him look like Errol Flynn.
Oh.
Back in the day, and he used to do he would have the Danger Room, you know how it does holograms.
Yeah.
He would reenact pirate movies.
Oh shit!
In the Danger Room. This is why Kurt is the best.
And why has no why has no modern X-Men thing done that?
Because they're dumb.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
This is why X2 pisses me off, is because you got Alan Cummings, who was brilliant as Nightcrawler, and the makeup was great, and you made him a fucking mopey religious dude? Excuse me? You got Alan Cummings, one of the most fun actors you could, with all this charisma and personality, and you had him cut himself and sulk.
Hey, Xander, what are some of your other favorite Spider-Man moments?
The time he meets up with Nightcrawler and they take on the Punisher, because Kurt's the best.
Was that actually a thing?
Yeah, it was a thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I will say
I love that.
Go ahead.
I love oh god, he has a name and I'm forgetting it. Where he's wearing the bag in the Fantastic. I loved that issue. He tries to join the This was earlier. I think this was still Lee and Ditko. He tries to join the Fantastic Four because he's like, I need money. I'll join you guys and you pay me for being a member of the Fantastic Four. And that's how he met Johnny Storm. And then they were like, so A, we're not hiring. We don't know why you thought we were. And B, we're not fucking paying you.
And 3, 4, not 5. So, I mean, sorry.
And then Spidey did become a member of the Future Foundation. But
okay.
Yeah, so his costume gets wrecked, so he has to web home wearing one of their spare Fantastic Four jumpsuits and a paper bag over his head.
Good.
It's great.
Good job, Peter.
And then the Spider-Mobile. Who can forget the Spider-Mobile?
I didn't know there was a Spider-Mobile.
Everyone forgets the Spider-Mobile because it was stupid even at the time.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
How
could I forget? I didn't know.
Yeah, he gets a sponsorship deal with a car company.
Cool.
So he has to build a Spider-Mobile, and then he ditches it in a river because it's stupid.
Well, at least they were honest.
Johnny Storm helps him build that.
and then they drive it off a cliff together.
Yeah, and then they make out.
One of mine is now that I've seen a few different takes on, at least 3. I do like the more so than not that Venom isn't cool in and of itself, but more so than anything with Venom is the moment where Peter discards the symbiote suit.
Oh yeah.
Because I've now seen the '90s cartoon version of that, Spectacular, and the movie version, and I think like a comic version of it, because I'm sure there's probably been like a few different
It's not as good in the comics as it was in Spectacular.
Really?
I'll say that.
Okay. Well, Spectacular made a whole like episode out of that,
Yeah.
for one thing.
And I love the comics. It's just it was the 90s.
Well, it's the first time they did it at all, so
Things were shitty in the 90s. Spider-Man especially.
The comics were.
Oh, God, that was the Clone Saga. The
Oh,
dreaded
boy.
Clone Saga. Yeah. Also, one that I feel like I'm going through like a greatest hits of Spider-Man.
That's
but
fine. Go for it.
The iconic one that I still love a lot is Peter's in Dr. Octopus's lair, which is flooding, and there's a giant like pile of shit on top of him, and he can't lift it up. And he knows Aunt May is, I forget if she's dying at that point or in danger. Both happen so often, it's easy to forget. And there's this moment where he can't do it, and he's about to give up, and he just thinks of Aunt May, and he just fucking lifts this entire thing and gets out of there and stops Doc Ock and all that. And it's just it when I describe it, it sounds kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, but it really is one of those moments that was really defining for, I think, kind of who Peter is.
And when was this?
Oh god, that was the 70s.
Okay.
Say.
Okay.
Maybe the late 60s.
Has anyone ever adapted that into like one of the shows, the movies, or anything?
I think they did actually adapt that into Spectacular Spider. Are you at the Master Planner or whatever he's called?
I figured out that he's Master Planner, but they haven't revealed that he is yet. So.
Yeah. It's that story.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Most stuff with Doc Ock in general has always been like when he first gets everything like attached to his spinal cord and everything is always terrifying and cool.
The death of Gwen Stacy is kind of a standard. I have kind of mixed feelings. I think what's more significant to me is less of the bridge where he whips her and possibly breaks her spine, or maybe she died on the way down. We'll never know. The guilt. But when he confronts Norman Osborn afterwards, I think is really, really. I mean, again, that was either the 60s or the 70s again. Like, you don't expect that. That's kind of why Marvel distinguished itself.
Yeah,
it was because you didn't expect that kind of stuff
from DC.
Out of comics.
Oh, okay.
It just wasn't done. They were a children's medium. They weren't a serious storytelling medium. They didn't have. It's easy to forget that like comic books are only really recently being considered art.
Mainstream media, even. Yeah.
Not just mainstream, but art.
Yeah.
In general, like something that's respectable as a way of telling stories and of all that kind of stuff. So those moments really stick with you. And yeah, I think Spider-Man, I mean, Stan Lee clearly loved Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when he put those moments in, and Steve Ditko did too, I think, before he left the book. Then John Romita Sr. took over, and he was, oh my God, he was great.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm probably also going to do I might do a separate Spider-Man Kirblog about like my thoughts on like the movies in general, but also like I kind of knew the death of Gwen Stacy was going to be happening and amazing too.
As soon as Gwen Stacy shows up, you're like, oh honey, you're not gonna last.
Yeah. But I mean, aside from the fucking hand web reaching down, which was like, all right, come on guys. Other than that, that was my first time seeing that happen. Like I had only ever heard about it like for many, many years about like in the comics. And did that happen in the 90s show too?
No, because Gwen Stacy didn't exist in the 90s show.
Oh, at all?
I think she might have showed up once.
Oh, okay. I feel like
in like an alternate universe.
I feel like there was some other like iteration where they did do that in the show, but maybe I'm wrong. Either way though, Yeah, I mean that is definitely like a standard one, but it's definitely I mean it's for a reason. It's
It's
well
iconic.
known,
Yeah, it's that because it had such weight, and I mean especially like the storyline leading up, like Harry Osborn gets addicted to heroin, which is like, what?
Yeah.
And then Gwen Stacy dies, and then the Green Goblin dies, and like for real, not like you see him get stabbed by his own glider. It's just. Having read Spider-Man up to that point, you didn't see a lot of things like that. And they built it like the covers were like, they told you someone was going to die, but they didn't tell you who. And they showed all these different people. It's like, someone's going to die. And you're like, oh, yeah, sure, of course. We've seen these covers before. And then they fucking did it.
Yeah.
And it was ballsy. And I wish she would stay dead.
Well, what I'm reminded of is I can't remember his real name, but he goes by it's just some random guy. Hi, I'm a Marvel and I'm a DC parody guy.
Yeah.
He mentioned like in one of his stories that he wrote is like one like the after hour like thing he did with like Stan Lee, and he mentioned like how like the Marvel characters, and this is I think also why they made their mark, is that like they were built to be a lot more like modern day relatable to people, whereas the DC superheroes are much more like these like people on a pedestal that you want to aspire to be.
I feel like DC is mythology, and like good mythology, there are great stories to be told, and the characters are very human at their core. The thing that Marvel did was they were like, all right, let's take them and give them a day job. And I think that's because it's not only just like, and DC's definitely gone in different directions now. They're still focused on the bigger cosmic sort of storytelling, which I think is great. There's definitely a place for that, and anyone who says that they're inferior because of it is wrong, I think. But the thing about Marvel, and especially I think Spider-Man is really what kind of started them on this, is that they're people first.
Yeah.
And and there were consequences for their actions as heroes in their real life. Maybe not for someone like, Doctor Strange so much, but like, which by the way, fucking excited for that movie.
I'm curious for sure. I know nothing about Doctor Strange, but I'll be learning real soon.
If you read the old like 60s stuff where Steve Ditko's doing this really psychedelic artwork, it's great. But it's still very different in terms of its story, but like Iron Man, I mean, even Thor, the Incredible Hulk, they were people who had real life problems that were exacerbated by them being superheroes. Being a superhero wasn't necessarily always the solution. Sometimes that was the problem.
Yeah.
And I think Spider-Man really kind of is like the front man of that, of the everyman who can also be a superhero.
Yeah, I think that's just because with the way comics started, where it was like, fantastical, crazy, like gimmicky kind of superpowers, and then like, having like
the ghost of the jungle. Wait, that was the Phantom. Fuck, I nearly said the Spirit.
I remember Phantom. Wait, was Phantom a DC character?
No. Those were all like really, really. I don't know who published those. I think it was.
I remember the fucking Phantom with Billy Zane, the movie.
Oh god, well that sucks. But like, that being said, oh my god, I forget how like racist we were back then.
In the Billy Zane Phantom movie?
No, read the original Spirit and the Phantom.
Oh, well,
they were so and like they weren't shy about it. It wasn't just like there weren't black people. I mean, there were cartoon characters that they said were black people, but it was like, it's actually like disgusting to read.
Yeah. Well, but on that same note though, I mean like Marvel in general, because like X-Men was like, very much an allegory for like people who were hated on, and for minorities and ethnicities and different sexual orientations and things. I think that the idea of like a lot of these, more including Spider-Man, like came from is just like what's something that is relatable and like more of a like distinctly human story that we can tell that just has superhero shit in it.
Weirdly enough, the X-Men didn't catch on for a long time.
Yeah,
like the Stan Lee run was just kind of their teenage superheroes, but then Chris Claremont and John Byrne came in, completely revamped it and made it more of the like, no, these are heroes who people are genuinely afraid of because they represent our possible extinction or whatever in their own mind. There's a genuine bias there, a prejudice against them.
And it's funny because Spider-Man and X-Men seem more than anything like the two Marvel properties, even with how now massive the other Avengers individual characters have become thanks to the new movies and everything. Spider-Man and the X-Men distinctly are still like the most iconic things that they have, and Spider-Man maybe even in a way to a bigger extent because of that character in and of itself. Like I was saying in the very beginning, Spider-Man just always existed. He was just always there, and I knew who he was somehow. So
I mean, I'm so glad he's home. You know, I'm so glad we are gonna get a good Spider-Man movie. Probably.
Well, why don't we wrap up with that? So
right, let's do it.
I'll say for those of you who have not seen Civil War and didn't listen to, or whether you haven't, if you've seen it, and even if you haven't heard my reaction Kirblog that I did, that is coming out on the day that we were recording this, actually. Then just so you know, we're gonna dip into spoiler territory, but mainly we're gonna talk about, because everybody's been asking, what did you think of Tom Holland's Spider-Man? I already did some gushing about him, but so please take the fucking helm.
I thought they did it. They found the nice halfway point between Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I didn't like Tobey Maguire very much as Spider-Man.
Me either.
I've never really, because he never seemed he's kind of what Hollywood I think thinks nerds are.
Yeah.
You know, like he's clearly a very handsome dude who they just put some glasses on and tell him to act awkward, and all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that he's getting bullied at school. Fuck you.
Yeah.
But
by the way, Tobey Maguire is a great actor. If you
is.
haven't seen Pleasantville, check that shit out.
He also couldn't quip as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There is a moment in Spider-Man 1 where they realized, oh, he can't be funny. We messed up.
It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind.
See, that wasn't the one that killed it for me was when before he even becomes Spider-Man, when he's wrestling, he's like, come on down here. That's a nice outfit. Did your boyfriend make it for you? And I remember this moment in the theater. Clearly there's supposed to be a laugh there. And everyone in the theater was just like, this is it?
Is this Spider-Man?
This is what we're doing? Okay, guess we're in for the long haul.
Cool.
But and Andrew Garfield, I thought he was better at being that kind of quippy, more fun sort of Spider-Man. But he was also and this isn't really his fault, it's definitely more the script, but he was an asshole. And Spider-Man's kind of a dick because he does kind of bully his villains and stuff, but he's not that much of a dick. I've
always said this, but I don't think I've ever said this on Kirblog before, but definitely in our conversations with other people about these movies is, even though, and I get, because everybody's about Andrew Garfield is like, oh, he's too cool to be Peter Parker, he's too handsome. And I'm like, first of all, Hollywood's gonna get good-looking people no matter fucking what. But honestly, I found Tobey's, at least the direction or whatever of Tobey's Peter to be too annoying. And even though Garfield's Peter was probably too cool to be believable as a nerd, he was still awkwardly likable enough to where I was like, okay, at least I'm enjoying this version of Peter. And his Spider-Man was much better in terms of he got the
my problem was
better.
He acted kind of like a dick, and because he didn't I thought he was very good at being kind of awkward, but kind of he pulled it off.
Yeah.
But that being said, when he's promises are made to be broken at the end of the first movie, when he's talking about Gwen Stacy, Captain Stacy's last words to him in this movie are literally, don't fuck my daughter. And then he's like, okay, man, I'm not gonna fuck your daughter. I'm not gonna fuck your daughter. I was like, all right, good on you, Peter. And then Gwen just looks at him and he's like, I'm gonna fuck his daughter. I was like, wow.
And then that's the whole premise of the first half of the second movie, where they're just like, we can't fuck each other, but we really want to fuck each other.
We really want to.
God damn it.
I mean, but maybe just what if we do it in the butt? It's not really us fucking.
Let's go to Europe. And oh no, well,
yeah.
All of that said though.
But with Tom Holland, it's a nice balance. But he's still awkward and clearly not sure how to handle himself.
Yeah.
But he's also not. Excuse me.
He's adorable. He's adorable.
But then
I could say that.
In battle, he's he's just constantly saying kind of the wrong thing, and that's what's funny.
You know that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back?
Also, I thought I hate that Aunt May keeps getting hotter and hotter and younger and younger. Like, I hate that. I think Aunt May should just die. I know, not a popular... Because she's been 80 since the 60s. I'm getting jealous at this point.
Well...
Also, like, in the comics, they still haven't really found a good use for her. Like, originally, she was, like, his old aunt who he kind of had to take care of. Yeah. And that's why... Like, she was getting older as he was getting older. Obviously, that's how it works. But, like, she was hitting that point in life where she was starting to not be able to take care of herself. Yeah. And he was hitting that point in life where he could start taking care of himself. And that was an interesting dynamic because now he has to make sure his... Like, she's functional. She doesn't need to, like, be put in a home or anything. But she's getting a little bit more absent-minded. She's not as healthy as she used to be. And so he all of a sudden has to take responsibility for that. Yeah. And she's not able to hold, like, she's not able to work because she's way past retirement age. Yeah. So money is kind of hard to come by. And that was all interesting. But once he was kind of out of the house and she stopped really being a presence in his life, now she's just there to die and be put in danger.
I did like the...
And be an arbitrary, like, forced source of conflict. And it's gotten so... I'm just like, just kill her.
Well,
let her go.
To be fair, though, I did like the like, proactive, like medical version of her in the Amazing movies that, like, the Sally Field that I thought was pretty cool. Right. I don't know what they're going... I'm really curious about what they're going to do. What she and Tony are gonna...
I think Tony's gonna be Uncle Ben. And then I think he's gonna die in Infinity War.
Oh my God.
And he's gonna be like, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. And Peter's gonna be like, thank you! And that's how RBJ gets out of the movies.
Do you want that? Do you actually want that?
I would actually kind of be okay with it. Oh my God. I feel like that would actually be a good kind of... Because Tony's kind of... He hasn't gotten to piss me off yet in the movies, but he's almost getting there because he's not learning his lesson. Yeah. Ultron happened because he was being too controlling and wanted to, like, come up with the perfect solution. And then Civil War happened because he wanted to come up, like, someone else came up with the solution that he was like, oh, that's the thing. And I'm feeling really guilty about the Ultron thing, and this makes me feel less guilty, so I'll do that. Yeah. And it makes sense, but you want him to learn. I don't want to not like Iron Man. I don't want Iron Man to be the bad guy.
Well, that's what I think is going to be really cool about Homecoming as well, is because from what the little information we know is that now they've confirmed that Tony and Steve are both going to be in it. So, for one thing, like, what I was already curious about is that, okay, Civil War I knew was going to be a great introduction of this new version of Spider-Man. It totally was.
It was.
Because it's
they didn't even spend that much time on it.
No, it just
was
worked.
Just very effective.
Yeah, and like, it's like, and even when they do Homecoming, it's like, we don't, at best, maybe a flashback of the spider bite and of Ben dying, etc. It's like, I'm cool with that. If you want to establish that, that's fine. But it's like, we get it. We know who Spider-Man is. We know who Peter Parker is. Just fucking start, and they did.
I actually think... I genuinely would love this to happen. I don't think Ben Parker is needed in this. Okay. I know, I love Ben, but he might not be needed here. If we have Tony essentially be Uncle Ben in this case. Because we don't know whether RBJ is coming back after his contract's up. We really don't. And if they need to get rid of him anyway, it would be great to have his legacy just passed on to Peter. Yeah. So because of that, if they do kill him off, and then he teaches Peter, like, great power, and they've already got this kind of mentorship thing going on, which is brilliant. You know, it's a natural fit. It was in the comic books too until they kind of ruined it. But like, now they've got this thing where Peter's young, he's inexperienced. Iron Man could kind of teach him what he knows, and also kind of teach him his mistakes. Yeah. And then that's the resolution of that's like Tony's redemption after all this shit. Yeah. Is giving the world a hero who's gonna go and hopefully do better than him.
Yeah, and I think also, like, with the little brief interaction with Steve. By the way, side note, I wanted to shoot a Vine with Mike Lucas while he was in his Spider-Gwen hoodie, and I was in my Captain America hoodie, and I wanted to be like, hey kid, you got a heart, where are you from? Queens? Brooklyn. But he didn't want to because he's a butt, so fuck you, Mike, I love you. But yeah, his little minor dynamic with Steve, and obviously the fact that he's a big fan of him as a hero. Right. And so Steve and Tony being, like, in the context of what I'm assuming will be the story of Homecoming, like, these pillars that that Peter is looking up to and learning from. Against, I'm assuming whoever the villain will be for this one.
Mysterio!
Please, thank you.
Oh my god. Bruce Campbell is Mysterio!
I have finally, for the first time ever, experienced Mysterio in Spectacular. I've never seen any other version of him like in full, aside from like a voice clip or whatever on BTVA or something. I love him. They probably won't use him for Homecoming, but please, I can dream.
So goofy. I love him.
God almighty. I think actually on that, to go with your theory sort of, or your hopes and dreams, that is.
It's not gonna happen. Marvel does not, even as ballsy as they are, I don't think they have the balls to cut Uncle Ben out of the equation.
That's what I'm saying, is I think that Ben will still be the inspiration for what gets him to start, but I think that because Tony is proving to be the continuation, and he's helping him make the next step into doing a better job with what he's trying to do. So your theory about it, because, people are probably going to die. If they didn't die in Civil War, they're probably going to fucking die during Infinity War Part 1 or Part 2 or whatever they're retitling them now, apparently. I don't know. If Robert Downey is almost done with doing this, which he's absolutely
I think his contract is up after Infinity War Part 2.
Then,
so they might renegotiate. I'm just saying, if they can't, that would be, I would be satisfied with that as an ending to this version of Iron Man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because especially, I was saying this in my Civil War thoughts Kirblog, but like how there's a path with Cap where it's like first Avengers, Winter Soldier, Ultron, Civil War, and now Homecoming will also be like the next part of the story for Cap and Iron Man, and then assumingly, like Black Panther will have some stuff to do with it.
Is he done being Are they making him Renegade?
Oh, I don't know. And then who? Well, but Sam and Bucky are both on their side, so they can't be Captain America too.
Well, but Sam's the only one who's not in the cooler. Sam.
Well, yeah.
Falcon for Cap.
We'll see.
2016.
I would be okay with that.
I
was expecting Bucky to be Cap
Sam
too,
is
but
so good in these movies.
Yeah.
He's great.
I would be okay with that. I would love Sam Cap.
I mean, Bucky's cool. I like Bucky. I like Winter Soldier. I like that character. I like what Ed Brubaker did with him back in the day, and I like that they're continuing that in this. I'm not sure I want to watch a movie about him, like with him as the main character, because the thing is, Cap has a charm to him that works. There's it's not an innocence, but it is a kind of purity that you respond to while he's still realistic, and that's kind of been what the Russo brothers have done so well with these past two Cap movies, is have him address real world problems with no easy decisions.
Cap is my new favorite. I love him.
And he still manages to make the one, even if it's not always the right decision, it's the decision he believes is right, and if he's wrong, he owns it. And that's so refreshing, especially when we live in a world where Superman's what he is in that movie. Yeah. It's nice that we still have that kind of spirit with Captain America.
Absolutely, yeah. And also the fact that he's in the position he is now after Civil War, but he'll still be presumably somebody for Peter to look up to. Because even if Tony wouldn't shit talk him to Peter anyway in this context, because he still probably has enough respect for him. And even if he did, and even if Peter heard about all the bad things that's happening, he'd probably be, but he's still a hero, and he still is like maybe one of the people that inspire, and probably in tandem with Ben, since this continuity, all the Avengers have been doing shit. I mean, this version of Peter probably got a lot of inspiration from them too.
I mean, Peter even said, like, Mr. Stark told me you think you're doing the right thing and you're not, and that makes you dangerous. And I thought that was actually a really good line, because it does show he's naive, but he still has conviction. Yeah. And it also shows that Tony believes in what he's doing. And like, we see that in the movie. Robert Downey fucking killed it.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God,
I said this on the other one before, but like, give me a break. Was like, oh, okay, whoa, that got me.
The thing, I hated the Civil War comic book because I just couldn't buy what they were trying to feed me. This movie made the same concept work.
Well, it was a very different kind of execution.
It wasn't as half-assed or up its own ass.
Well, and also the main theme of it. The main theme of it was still the same, but like the actual story was totally different, more or less. It
committed to, instead of when supervillains do things that's our fault, to guys, we have a lot of power and we're dealing with people with a lot of power and we're going to make mistakes and there has to be
checks and balances.
Some kind of accountability for that.
Yeah.
But they made it clear, like, yes, they're not wrong for thinking that, but at the same time, they're going about it the wrong way, and they're trying to put too much, they're letting their fear drive them, and they're letting their agendas drive them.
Well, the other thing, too, that's interesting is, like, so in both of the last attempts of a Spider-Man movie series, we've never had other superheroes, as far as we've seen, in those worlds. So the fact that, because Sony is producing Homecoming like themselves, like with Marvel, like working with them, right?
Yeah.
So obviously they're being held to, okay, in this universe, there are already other established superheroes that have been doing shit for a while. And Peter, also in this world, would have been there for when Avengers 1 shit went down with the aliens and everything.
Right.
So...
Oh my God.
Right?
He would have been like 12.
Yeah, I think so.
When fucking Iron Man 1 happened. No, he would have been younger than that.
Because is it all in real time, the way that these are
They
passing?
said that Tony came out as Iron Man 8 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So it's basically happening
8
in
years
real time.
ago, he would have been like...
Oh, boy. Wow.
I think he looks like he's about like 16 or so.
Tom Holland?
Yeah, so he would have been 8 when
Wow.
Iron Man happened.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, like that, just that setting could make for a completely unique
He literally
experience.
grew up in a world with Iron Man
Yep.
and Captain. That could be really, really... I didn't even think about that until just now, but yeah, that could be really interesting.
I mean, because, okay, like, I appreciated the Amazing movies for what they are. I know I'm a super small minority of that. I'll get to that later.
They
but
had
I'll,
good parts.
I'll just say, watch Nostalgia Critics old versus new video. That's basically my opinion. But, you know, I enjoyed them for what they are, but it's like, okay, Spider-Man 1, the third attempt. It's like, they cannot do it again.
No.
So, what I was expecting originally was it was just going to be, okay, it'll be, you already know he's Spider-Man, there'll be a villain or two, and it's just a story with that. But now, because I didn't even think about how this fit into the MCU, the fact that it's going to be like a Spider-Man movie with Iron Man and Captain America as like big pedestals, like as I keep describing them as, like, that's a completely different Spider-Man movie that we've never gotten, and really, in a way, it's a completely different Spider-Man story that we may have ever gotten at all.
I would love it. I know they're not going to, but I would love it if he had some kind of interaction with, like, Daredevil. Like, they just bump into each other when he's swinging through the city, and he's, like, swinging through Hell's Kitchen, and Daredevil's swinging through the, like, from the same chimney, and they just smack into each other.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Oh, dude, I didn't mean
and
to.
Daredevil's just like, what the hell?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't mean to.
What the shit? Get out of my city.
I hope the TV show characters get to do, like, maybe some minor thing in Infinity
I don't
War.
want anything. I just want them to slam into each other, and Daredevil just be like, what this shit? And him just be like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I'm new to this. I didn't see you there. There's not a lot of traffic up here.
Jesus Christ.
And then that's it. Next scene.
That'd be a good blooper. Now, I'll make that a cartoon if that scene inevitably isn't. Hold me to that, everybody.
Oh my God. I'm really excited for. I think we finally have a chance for a really good Spider-Man movie. Not just a Spider-Man movie with good parts, not just a Spider-Man movie that you're like, all right, I could... Like Amazing Spider-Man, I walked out of it going, that was all right, and then I don't remember most of it. Mm-hmm. You know? And I have no, like, inclination to go back and rewatch it. But, like, with the good superhero movies, I like going back and rewatching them and re-experiencing them.
I mean, how many people you think probably rewatched, like, a whole bunch of them in preparation for Civil War?
Exactly.
And willingly.
And that's kind of fun. Like, you know, with the Star Wars movie, when the new Star Wars movie comes out, it's fun to do that thing where everyone gets together and we watch all the Star Wars movies and then watch the new one. You know, like, even though you know these movies so well, it's nice to, like, have that be part of the experience of the ever-growing universe.
And I'll admit, like,
and I'm excited for a Spider-Man movie that makes me feel that.
For sure. And I mean, especially because even, like, with X-Men, like, you know, the X-Men movies all across the board are not amazing. There are definitely some really good standout ones, but they're not all
Deadpool was
good.
amazing.
Well, yes. That's my favorite X-Men movie.
Easily.
But yeah, I mean, I went back. I'll even admit, I watched Origin. I watched Wolverine Origin before Days of Future Past came out because I watched them all in a row, and I'm just like, okay, yep, that one sucked balls, whatever. And then I enjoyed First Class. I liked the Wolverine. Okay.
The Wolverine was, at the time it came out, probably the most solid outing in the X-Men movies. Which sucked, because like, it wasn't a good movie. It was just better than most of the other ones.
And
then was that after? Because First Class was better.
Yeah, First Class was before that, and
okay,
then
the second best. Because like even when you compare it to X2 or something, it's not good, but like it's focused at least.
Days of Future Past, I really enjoyed. I'm looking forward to Apocalypse.
It didn't have a million characters, none of whom get any kind of depth or exploration.
But yeah, and also like I think the thing with that is because they're still all in relatively one continuity, more or less. But Spider-Man, it's like you can watch the 3, and then you can, if you want, you can watch the 2 of Amazing. But it's like they're not going to go anywhere beyond that. So it's like now this is the fresh start. So if this is it's a fresh start in the middle of something else bigger that we have already been enjoying. And it's like I'm basically glad that Sony fucking wised up and they're just like, this is what we have to do. And maybe Fox will someday.
Fox will as soon as their movies stop being profitable. So Fantastic Four, hey. We're never seeing that movie though. I don't think we will see a Marvel produced Fantastic Four. If we do, it's not going to be in the next 10 years. It's certainly not going to be for a very long time. But I'm hoping they might be able to get the villains. We might get Galactus.
Well, the other thing too is
because I'm Doctor Doom.
I just little bits here, or MODOK maybe someday would be cool.
MODOK's Iron Man.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's Iron Man.
I never know like which one.
I think he would be packaged with Iron Man because AIM tends to be more.
But he's been in Fantastic Four and like Spider-Man and other stuff and X-Men.
I mean, everybody's been in everything.
Yeah, but anyway, but no, something else to this. Sorry, I know we've been going on this sub-subject for like 30 years. Spider-Man is amongst the new characters that, we were talking about how probably a lot of the old guard are going to end up getting killed off either by Infinity War or around that time, by the time we get to Phase 4 starting up. So the fact that they're introducing Doctor Strange, Black Panther, who's fucking awesome, by the way. Oh my God. He was so good.
I was so worried. Like, well, not worried, but like,
worried he wasn't going to get to do a whole lot.
Yeah, I was worried he was just going to be there.
No, he was great. He was a highlight.
He was actually one of the better parts of the movie. And it was a really good movie. I don't say that like, oh, he was one of the good, but no, he was one of the better parts in an outstanding movie.
And so like the fact that we already like him, I'm sure I will love Doctor Strange when I give him a shot. Captain Marvel, I know literally nothing about as well. I'm sure I'll probably like because
Captain Marvel's pretty great.
Well, the fact that they've made me as like a layman who only knows the really mainstream recognizable stuff like Spidey and X-Men and everything, like now they've made me love Cap, Iron Man, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Hulk, etc., Vision, and the fact that they're probably going to be weaning out a lot of those characters, having these new ones come in and become like the new main cast, and the fact that Spidey will be amongst them is exciting because it's like this iconic character who's going to get probably the best live action interpretation we've ever had yet.
Oh yeah.
Who I don't know what villain they're going to pick, if at all, for Homecoming.
I think there are some that make more sense than others. Like I'm pretty sure we can count out, Sandman's probably not going to be it.
Well, let's see. We've had Goblin. We've had Goblin technically twice, the Harry and Norman version. We've had Doc Ock.
I think could be cool.
Who?
Kingpin. Because he's also a Spidey character.
But the TV show, though.
The TV show is happening, but that's what I'm saying. As long as we have Daredevil slam into Spidey, it's enough of a crossover.
I would be down. But probably not for Homecoming, but I would be down.
It would be cool because it would give that kind of weight. The Kingpin really is running New York in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
he's a top dog. And I'm sure we'll have Daredevil season 3 by the time Homecoming comes out.
Yeah. If they crossed over, that'd be cool as shit. We'll see what happens.
I think if we see Kingpin's return to power in season 2 of Daredevil and they don't put him right back down, then having him at least be a part of Spider-Man could be really cool.
That could be cool, yeah.
But let me see who else.
Well, okay, so we've had both versions of Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Sandman, Venom, sort of. They're not going to touch Venom for a long time, probably.
I think it really depends on what kind of story they want to tell, because and we don't really. I don't think we know enough at this point to really say one
Yeah.
way or the other. But
We had Lizard, we had Rhino, we had Electro.
Lizard was such a weird choice for like your first Spider-Man movie.
Kind of, yeah. I kind of got where they were going with.
I mean, that would be like me going, all right, we're telling the first Batman story. Let's get Bane.
right, yeah.
Or let's get the Electrocutioner. Or let's get Orca the Whale Woman.
I mean, Mysterio would be really funny.
Yeah.
He'd be, I don't know if they would want to go that route for the first time, but like they haven't used Chameleon, they haven't used Vulture.
Chameleon could be interesting if they want to like kind of tie it into like how the Avengers mostly deal with like international terrorists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Chameleon could play to that, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't count him out. But if they want to tell a more personal story, I mean, you'd want him to go with one of the villains that has kind of an impact on Spidey personally.
Yeah.
Which is why I think like we're probably not gonna see, Electro or Shocker.
I kind of hope it's not Goblin though.
Probably not
I want them to wait on Goblin a little bit. You know what? Actually, on that note, after all we talked about, I think who I would want more than anybody is Chameleon, because Chameleon would be like a more deal withable, like less like kind of villain that like
Yeah.
would work for what I'm assuming the type of story they're gonna want to go with, where it's more just like Peter dealing with shit and not so much like a big plot to like overthrow New York or whatever kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think Goblin's kind of the thing is Goblin does make for a good. I call him first episode or first issue villains.
Yeah.
He really does but I think it's a temptation that Marvel's been very good at avoiding is you don't blow your load too soon.
Oh yeah.
Like one of the smartest things the Christopher Nolan movies did was not having the
Joker in the
be
first one. Of course.
Which
Yeah.
is one of the mistakes that I think Suicide Squad and Batman, because they're
Yeah.
so eager to get to the stuff that people love.
Well,
like
yeah.
Darkseid as the villain in Justice League.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there?
Well, also even in
Who's the villain for Justice League 2?
Yeah.
When Darkseid's your first threat.
and plus even like in Spider-Man 3, like if they had continued the plan of doing like 4 and 5 of the Raimi series or whatever.
Yeah.
If 3 was just about Sandman and then like Neo Goblin, Harry was like the little like ooh surprise, like 3 probably could have been a lot better, and then Fox was like no, put in Venom. We want Venom. Venom is the fucking ticket seller.
I don't think that's Raimi.
It wouldn't.
Raimi made the decision to overpack the movie because he didn't give a shit about Venom, so he's like, I'm not going to tell a good Venom story. I'm going to tell this story that I want, and I'll throw Venom in there. But that was ultimately his choice to make.
Yeah.
He could have made a good Venom movie. He just didn't.
Well, with both Amazing and then also now with this, it seems like okay, well they'll probably wait to use Venom until like way later, like when it will be
I think Venom could actually be a good starter sort of thing if they wanted to go more with the I'm not huge on the ultimate version of Eddie Brock because I've yet to see him executed really well, but the idea of giving him more of an attachment to Peter and more reason to truly hate Peter Parker,
right.
I think is a good idea, and I think that
Yeah.
could ground it in a lot of person. But what they would do with the symbiote is kind of hot. Like I feel like the symbiote suit is probably, if I had to predict, I would guess he's gonna get the symbiote suit as part of Infinity War, since that's more of a cosmic thing.
Maybe.
And he's
yeah.
and the symbiote's an alien. That would
Yeah.
be just a very convenient way of
I
being
could see
like,
that. You know what? If they established Eddie in Homecoming, in Homecoming, and then like to set up for Venom later, that I'd be okay with. That would be cool. Yeah, because I do want to see like a well done live action Venom too.
I'm
like,
right here.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I'm sitting
Well,
right here.
You hear that, Marvel?
My giant tongue is literally on the ground right now.
It's funny because
Ladies.
Casey doesn't want to be named. A very good friend of ours actually was in the running for Peter in Civil War, and yeah, you did well. I don't know. I was rooting for him.
I love him. It would have been too weird.
Well, because when I heard Tom in the trailer, it would have been weird because we know him.
Oh no, right? But like you heard him, and I saw him. I was like, oh my god,
It's
that's
so and so, yeah. But when I told,
my God.
I saw him recently, and I told him, and he was like, "No, that guy does his own fucking stunts. He would have beaten me easily. He deserves
he
it."
also his humor is different than our friends. And I think his humor worked.
It just would have been funny. It would have been really cool.
I would have been unable to watch that movie. I would have been like, well, I'll wait 10 years. I'll get it on the next one. Guys.
Yeah.
I'll watch the next one.
God Almighty. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I didn't even finish my thought about. I'm curious as to what they're gonna do with Aunt May in this version. I'm curious. I have a feeling in terms of like the lead girl, they'll probably go with Mary Jane this time since they just got off using Gwen before.
I hope so. I mean, they could go in. I mean, he's had a fair few love interests in the past few years and stuff like that. I think they could go with one of them, or like.
Oh, you know what? Actually, Black Cat would be kind of interesting. Maybe.
I feel like Black Cat
should be saved.
Well, the thing about having a teenage Spider-Man and then having Black Cat.
Yeah, true enough.
Is either she's way too old for him, or it's just weird that you're trying to make a teenage girl be this sexy cat.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I was kind of sad because
that was actually something the Ultimate Comics did really well. Is like they had like Peter was totally into Black Cat, but it was just basically regular like woman Black Cat.
Yeah.
And she was all like, "Oh, you're kind of mysterious. You're short, but you're kind of mysterious." And then she found out he was like 16.
She's like, "Oh God, I feel gross now."
Oh God, dude,
that's funny.
Call me in like 20 years when you grow up.
I was a little sad about because well, I guess it doesn't matter obviously now, but I heard in Amazing 2 there was going to be like a scene with MJ just like being around just to establish
I don't think she was
her.
actually a part of the movie.
Yeah,
and she just got cut out completely.
Yeah,
that was one that kind of pissed me off though, because a lot of people were bitching like, "Oh, she's not hot enough to be Mary Jane." And it's like, motherfucker, you haven't seen the movie yet.
Well, I saw. I was like, no, she looks like she fits the part. I forget the actress, but I was kind of hoping because okay, in Raimi 3. Gwen's just like, I'm here now. And it's like, oh, who are you? And so if they at least like...
I'm Captain Stacy's daughter. I've been here the whole time.
It's like, oh, good. All right. But if they had established, like, just showing her in the second one, I would have been like, okay, I can... just to set it up a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, I have a feeling for Homecoming, they'll probably go with MJ. Just because they haven't used
I feel like that's probably the safest bet.
Yeah. But it's going to be... What do we know when it's coming out?
Not off the top of my head.
Probably 2018 if I had to guess, because next year is Doctor Strange.
I think they're already like working on it.
Already?
Yeah. Well, also it's Sony's movie, so
that's true.
I think it will be produced separately from the Marvel movies.
Yeah,
even though it's in the same universe.
Yeah.
I think Sony's probably eager to get that one out pretty soon.
For sure. But we have Black Panther and Guardians 2 coming out next year, I think, right? And then or within, I think maybe even within this year. Do we have any other ones this year? No, Doctor Strange is this year.
Doctor Strange this year.
And then Guardians, and then I think Black Panther is after that.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and then Thor Ragnarok, and then I think after that is Infinity War Part 1.
I'm still waiting for them to do a goddamn Hulk movie. I know at this point it's like they're so tied up in production, it's probably not going to happen.
I miss my Ruffalo, my Ruffalo Hulk.
You know what? I want Planet Hulk. I want that movie.
Well, it got canceled, right?
No, I don't think it was ever. I don't think it was ever in production.
I feel like I heard like they were going. That was going to be like Universal was going to do that.
Someone made like a fake Indestructible Hulk poster, which I thought was cool because I'd be down for an Indestructible Hulk movie. But I've got a text.
You got a text from your friend Digby.
Oh yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, he does my. It was great. No, he recorded that for me. He also recorded. He needed me to record something for a friend of his, and I was like, fine, I'll do it. But you have to do a spoken word version of Hungry Like a Wolf in Bigby's voice.
That's Adam Harrington, was Bigby from Walking Dead, by the way.
Did it. And it was great.
Love you, Adam. Haven't seen you since fucking that one time at Harry's.
Yeah, come back from fucking Vegas, asshole.
What a dickbag. He's cool.
He's everywhere. He's all up and down the coast. Oh.
I guess that's gonna wrap us up. Do you have any final like general thoughts you want to say about Spoderman to the world, about just what he means to you?
I mean, he's one of those characters who I think has an appeal that is universal but also weirdly specific. I think everyone understands, at least on some level, everyone understands what it feels like to be an outcast or feels like to be
like nothing you do matters.
Like that nerd sort of feeling. Like even if you're not a nerd, there have been those times when you feel not wanted or not accepted as part of the group. And I think also all of us can sympathize with sort of the duality of the character of there's like the version of us we present to the world as ourselves, and then the version of us that kind of lives in our head and is this idealized.
It is way
version
more
of
cool
ourselves.
than we actually think we are and that we want to be. Yeah.
And I think because of that, Spider-Man's a character who I think everyone on some level can relate to. And then there's also the whole, like, he struggles with money. He has to do all these things that are very mundane, but we love him because he goes through that, and we get to go through it with him. And that helps us, I think, contextualize our own lives in a lot of ways. And I think he's one of the great... I'm going to turn that the fuck off.
Adam apparently really wants to be part of this Kirblog.
No, that's... Oh, yeah, I thought you were saying it. No, that's not Adam texting me. But, yeah, it's... I think he's an important character to a lot of people, and I know to me he certainly has been, because, you know, I mean, in high school, it's not like I was the popular kid.
Yeah. We've all probably been there. I mean,
you know,
at some
exactly.
point.
And I think because of that, he gives us something to kind of aspire to, but also relate to. And I think he's one of the real immortal characters of pop culture.
For sure.
I think, you know, we will hit a point 20 years down the road when people are like, man, Iron Man's for old people. We like whatever the new craze is.
Yeah.
But I don't think Spider-Man's ever going anywhere.
No, I mean, that story of him, of just Peter's story in general is something that I feel like, you know, and maybe, to be fair, maybe more so to, like, American kids, like more so than other people. But I mean, at the same time, like, as far as I know, Spider-Man's, like, pretty internationally a big hit. So, you know.
I'm eager to see what the next chapter is, and yeah, he's been. It sounds so lame to fucking say it, but he has been, like, he was one of my childhood heroes, and it's great that he's kind of grown up with me, and he's still a part of my life, so I'll always have a soft spot for him.
Last question, just for you personally. If you could voice any Spider-Man character in some kind of animated production of some kind, who would it be?
The Goblin.
Yeah?
The Green Goblin.
Harry or Norman version?
Either.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done... Okay, this is fucking embarrassing to admit, but one of the things I did to learn how to voice act was I'd read comic books, so I have...
There's nothing embarrassing about that. You should, yeah,
in my room.
I do that shit. Are you kidding me?
Sad and pathetic, and I still do it.
Not pathetic at all.
I have,
actually,
like,
if anything, everybody aspiring actors do that. It's very helpful. Seriously.
So I have the voices in my head are like my headcanon, but like, I do all of the.
Yeah.
So, like, you could ask me to pull out. You know, you'd have to tell me what, like, kind of what version and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I have my versions that I do of all these guys.
Well,
which is paying off, let me tell you. Having Doc Ock living in my brain is really making me a lot of money.
The superior Xander Mobus, Spider Xander. That was good. I did that.
That was good.
Well, I guess I have to draw green Xander Blinn.
Also, holy shit! I was playing Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
That's the one with the four ones, right? Yeah,
dude. Jim Cummings is the Goblin in that. Like, the noir version of the Goblin is kind of like, I don't like the I'm a big mutant version.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like he's always been like Norman Osborn, just kind of looks like that.
Okay.
Like, because he was a genetic freak show attraction sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, like, he's so good. I think they pitched him when he gets, like, really bassy and rumbly.
Yeah.
But when he's just talking normally, that's all Jim, and it's like,
yeah.
oh my god, I have
awesome.
the babe. And he's so good. He's got this great speech where he's talking about, like, this is the place where I once starred. Freak show.
I just heard Jim actually in the Spectacular episode, in the one where he has the flashback. He's the bone saw equivalent character or whatever. The Crusher guy. Crusher Hogan.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. That was him. For me, Doc Ock, if ever, because I'd love to do. I mean, if I were a younger man, Peter, maybe.
I was gonna say, if I sounded younger, or if they had an older version of Spider, like, I could do noir Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I would really like to do that.
Josh did him in Shattered Dimension, I think, right? No, that was Chris Barnes.
Chris
Right.
Barnes.
Yeah, he was awesome in that.
Spider-Man 2099. I love Miguel O'Hara. He's so cool. I mean, even in the Shattered Dimensions where he was just 80s Spider-Man for some reason. But it
was fun.
Yeah, Miguel's awesome.
Yeah, Shattered Dimensions is conceptually cool as shit.
Spider-Man 20... I don't know why they haven't made a cartoon out of Spider-Man 2099.
He's probably been in Ultimate at some point, hasn't he?
He's been in other stuff. I'm just, like, he's got a lot of material to work with.
Ultimate Spider-Man used, like, every single version of Spider-Man ever in existence at some point.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, well, thank you for. Do you want to plug your shit or anything like usual? Or
The only thing I think I have to plug right now that I can talk about is Camp WWE.
Yeah,
which is
you wanna-
coming out, Camp WWE is coming out on the WWE Network, airing now. I'm in, I think, episode 7 of that. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. And yeah, I play
The Ultimate Warrior, who is here to teach the campers all about the ways of the warrior.
which Martin Little Karibo was ecstatic over, and he was very happy about that.
bless him.
Also, by the way, if you haven't yet, please buy Tales of Hysteria and Disgaea 5, featuring both of us.
Came out like a year ago. You can get them dirt cheap.
It's not been that long already.
It has.
Jesus.
Dude,
No,
I'm sure they're like in development on Disgaea 7 by now.
7?
Yeah.
What happened to 6?
Eh.
Twitter, anything?
Oh, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at XanderMobusVO, because I'm original. And
Is your Facebook page also Xander Mobus VO?
no, it's Xander Mobus voiceover, I think.
Okay,
I
I'll have links to all that shit in the description.
I hire PR people to do that for me. That's a lot.
Yeah, I was about to say. I'll call you out on that shit.
I wish. That'd be so much easier. Oh, my God.
That's gonna do it. So thank you for indulging me for how long did we go for even? Check the fucking timestamp.
okay.
While I bring us home. In the comments below, please leave your thoughts, hopes, dreams.
If you have, I couldn't think of a better rhyme. Sorry.
Good job. Tell us anything you want to know about the Spoderman. Any and all incarnations on print, on the big screen, on the TV, in the Vatero game. We didn't even really talk about the video games until that little bit about Shattered Dimensions.
Whether your favorite version is spectacular or my tramp stamp, let us know.
And if you have suggestions for future Marvel or otherwise related Kirblog topics, leave a comment about that. And otherwise, the next one will probably either be me doing one by myself about just my general thoughts on the movies, although we kind of covered a lot of my opinions anyway, so maybe I'll skip that.
Giant Man!
Oh yeah, I screamed a lot at that. That was amazing.
Oh my God.
And then if not, either way, I will definitely be doing a Spectacular Spider-Man centered Kirblog with a certain special guest whose name rhymes with Chlen Blixen. He may or may not have voiced one of the...
Hey guys, I'm here to do a Kirblog.
Hey, I'm really nice.
Hey,
I've been on like 10 Kirblogs already.
Yeah, it's cool. Hey, guys.
You can figure it out. So that'll do it. We'll catch you next time, and maybe I'll have Xander on another one in the future. I have to watch Daredevil first, and then we'll do one on that eventually. He's pointing at me.
Get out of my city.
Accusing me.
Wait, hang on. I gotta do that. Hang on. I got the sunglasses too. Hang on.
Thanks for great radio. He's touching me. He's touching me right now. He's doing his Daredevil impression.
Chris, is that you?
Stop going down there. Stop it. Good night, everybody.
Is that you? Get out of my city. I would be such a good Daredevil. Holy shit.